It's my great pleasure to introduce Pat Gillette. She has become one of my role models since I became an attorney several years ago. Pat recently joined JAMS as a full-time mediator, but prior to joining JAMS, she was a practicing top-rated trial lawyer with Aura, and she began her career before there were many women practicing law, let alone becoming partners at a large firm. She understands the key to success within law firms, and she's particularly generous with her time and knowledge in helping to advance women in our profession, which is something we really need. And Pat is a founder of the ABA's Opt-in Project to facilitate change in law practice. She has been a commissioner on the ABA Commission on Women. She served as a board member on the National Association of Women Lawyers, the Austin Consortium, and she's co-chaired the SFR's No Glass Ceiling Initiative. She has also been the recipient of the ABA Golden Hammer for promoting women in the profession, the Face Denver Award by the California Women Lawyers Association, among many other awards. So with that, I'm going to ask Pat to come up and to share the secrets to working with this group of millennials. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I have two hats I wear. One is as a neutral and the other is as a keynote speaker. I put on my keynote speaker hat now, and it's my pleasure to have the opportunity to address you at the end of the day when all you really want to do is go home and have a drink. So believe me, I'm with you. I want to thank Elva and congratulate her on her one-year term ending. I guess it's 1 year. And Phil, wherever you are, on your new term beginning. Congratulations. Robust bar association. I actually speak at a lot of bar associations across the country. I just got back, as a matter of fact, from Minnesota. And this bar association has just been wonderful to interact with all of you and to hear the kinds of issues that you're interested in. So, let's talk about how law firms used to look. Many of you in this room can relate to this. Oriental rugs, dark wood paneling, doors that said Mrs. Gillette or Mr. Jones, one secretary per lawyer, suits for men, dresses or suits with bow ties for women. It took 6 years to make partner, and that was based on being a really good lawyer and had nothing to do with business development. The performance review system was basically non-existent. You billed by the hour, and the way bills were sent to clients was with a little phrase that said, for professional services rendered. There was no detailing by time. And of course, firms were run primarily by men. But that was it. And now here we are in 2016. So what's changed? Well, some things have changed. We have brighter offices, right? I was at Heller Ehrman for many, many years, fabulous firm. I left before the fall, but it was a wonderful, wonderful place. A lot of Catholics and Jews, so a lot of guilt there, but we had a lot of but we were one of the first firms to go to the new colors. We got rid of all our rugs, we got rid of our hardwood floors, we put down slate, and what did we put up? Tabasco on the walls. It was so cool, and we were so hip. So we have brighter offices now, with often bold colors. We have first names on our doors now that say Pat Gillette versus Mrs. Gillette, so we don't connote whether I'm married or not, although I have been married for 42 freaking years, so I'm glad to have the mantle of Mrs. there as well. And in many law firms, of course, we have less formal dress, that is, unless you're going to see going into court, and certainly if you're meeting with tech clients, you want to wear torn jeans or something. But on the things that count, the things that really impact our daily lives, many of the traditional notions of law firms still exist. So partnership now takes not 6 years, but 8 to 10 to 12 years, depending on the size of your firm. You must not only be a good lawyer, but you have to be able to bring in business and demonstrate that either before you become partner or be pretty sure that you're going to be able to demonstrate after you become partner. No one has an individual secretary anymore. Secretaries are usually, or I think we call them assistants now, are usually 6 to 1, 10 to 1. There are litigation pools for people in big firms, for the new associates, because they don't really need a quote-unquote secretary. I was asked to give a speech at OR to some of the legal secretaries who were retiring. And I called them legal secretaries. I didn't call them assistants, because, that was a profession at one time. Those are the people who know more than you do about how to process litigation papers, how to do corporate deals. They were wonderful resources, and these people deserve to be honored as legal secretaries, but we don't have that anymore in most firms. Performance feedback is still terrible, with most firms only giving feedback once a year. The billable hour requirement that didn't exist when I first started out as a lawyer has increased in some firms to $1,900, $2,000, $2,100 as salaries continue to escalate. And our bills are now detailed to the nth hour to show everything that we've done and every minute that we've spent working for our clients. So not much has changed. Because not only have all those things remained the same, but we also know that our firms are still run primarily by men. And I love men. I have only men in my life. I have a husband of 42 years, as I mentioned. I have 2 sons. One's married, the other isn't. It's a lot like George Clooney, just in case. He does have a girlfriend, but I like to keep the options open. So the question is this: can you actually bring change to a profession that's built on tradition as ours is? Well, I'm always the optimist. So I say enter the push me, pull you. Does anyone know this animal? It's a mythical animal from Dr. Dolittle. Okay, and it has 2 heads. There's a head at the front that pulls and a head at the back that pushes. I think that this animal is the key to our dilemma going forward. Because this mysterious, mythical animal, in my mind, characterizes what's going on with our industry. Because what we see are these millennials. Some people consider that a bad word. I love the millennials. The millennials are pulling. And the baby boomers, surprisingly enough, are pushing. You might say, what happened to Gen X? They got lost in the translation. Gen X, sorry if you're a Gen Xer out there, you're the lost generation, because the frickin' baby boomers never retired and gave you an opportunity. So you're just lost. But we've got the millennials pulling and the baby boomers pushing. Well, the question is, will that work? Will it work? Well, to understand that, we have to really understand each of those generations. Let's talk about the millennials first. The millennials are defined in different ways by different people. Generally, they're defined as the generation that begins in 1980 and ends somewhere in the late 90s or the beginning of 2000. So if you were born in those dates, there are several of you out there I can see by the gray hair, then you are a millennial. And many say that this generation is going to change the world, and I truly believe that, because we're beginning to see that in our legal profession. We're beginning to see these millennials try to pull this worn-out old system of ours to something different. They've already done this in the business world, right? So if you look at the business world, what do you see? We know that most millennials in the business world, in corporate America, will have 4 jobs before they're 32. 4 jobs before they're 32. In the Bay Area, those jobs will primarily be in tech firms, where they're going to work hard and they're going to play hard. They have, or they believe that they have, the opportunity to make a whole lot of money in these jobs, although that's not what drives them. They're willing to work for minimal amounts of money with the promise of making more money because it's fun. It's fun. They're in workspaces that are open and lively, with food and workout rooms and yoga classes. I actually got a call from a friend of mine whose daughter has a startup, and she said that she was going to have to cut out the yoga classes for her workers, and that 2 of the people said that was a breach of contract. I don't think you're obligated to you tell them to get a life. But many of them have that. Their work experience is collaborative. They're working with diverse teams. They get constant feedback on how they're doing. And they get to make important decisions so they feel like they're part of what runs the business. And as I said, they think work is fun. They enjoy it. They're willing to put in 24/7 in these organizations because it feels good to be there. So businesses have recognized it. The corporate world has recognized it and adjusted to it. What have they done? Anyone been to the Facebook campus? They were one of my clients. It's hilarious. You feel like you've just walked into Main Street at Disneyland, right? First you sign in with an iPad, of course. God forbid you use a pencil. But you walk into the campus, and there is this land that has free everything. Phil's coffee, ice cream, cupcakes, lunch. They have places for kids to play when they come to visit their parents. They have a pet fox that wanders the premises. God forbid if he doesn't hurt anyone. They've responded by having this environment that feels like so much fun. In smaller tech companies, many of them require that there be a female or diverse attorney involved in every major decision they make. So they don't convene a conference until around the conference table they have a diverse team. They have companies where career counseling includes the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And you know what the answer to that is? I see myself at Google. And what does this company say? Let's figure out how to get you there. Because they know that these employees are not going to be with them for their entire careers. And at places like Google, they require their employees to spend a designated period of time thinking about new ideas. Let's just stop, everyone right now, think of a new idea. I used to do this with my kids, hoping that they would think of $1 million idea, which I could exploit. Didn't work so far. I did come up with something called sun tattoos, where you like put a little sticker on your hand and you sit out in the sun for a while, and then you have a little circle tattoo, right? Which I thought was really cool because it wouldn't be permanent. As a mother, I was very in favor of that. Then I realized skin cancer, you know, all the things to think about. But that was one of my $1 million ideas, didn't go anywhere. And so millennials are flocking to these companies as they see their interests aligned with the corporate culture. Because we, as employment lawyers, know this. What drives people to stay in their occupations, in their companies, in their firms, is culture. It's culture. That's what makes people stay. So let's contrast that with what's happening in the legal industry. Well, we have a decline in the law school population. As people are saying, why should I go to law school? I'm going to have all this debt, and then what am I going to get for it? And so the number of law students is beginning to decline. We have big firms that used to worry about their women leaving who are now worried about everybody leaving. It's not just the women who are flocking out of law firms, it's men who are leaving as well. One of my very best associates, and my team hardly ever lost anybody, but one of my very best associates, Harvard, brilliant thinker, great trial lawyer, wonderful writer, the kind of guy you'd think, he was the national debate champion. He was a fabulous guy, is a fabulous guy. He left in his 5th year. Why? Because he didn't see any reason to stay. He was having a baby, and he thought, I don't want this life. So we know that law firms have to worry not only about women making those decisions to leave, but men making those decisions as well. We have institutions like the ABA and many local bar associations who are fighting to become relevant and to stay relevant, to get membership. And we see fewer associates wanting to be partnered, regardless of the size of the firm, because they don't see that as the life they want. It's inconsistent. They don't see their work life as being something that they can have with a personal life that allows them to do the things they want because of our current structures. They want change. They want change now. And unlike the baby boomers, and unlike the Gen Xers, when they don't see change, they walk. They leave. So this train drain on the talent pool has really forced law firm leaders to begin to start to think about. Notice how many beginning things are in that sentence. making change. Because if we don't, we risk losing the next generation of talented lawyers. So let's talk about what drives millennials. What drives them? What makes them tick? So they've been explored in books, in articles, in TV shows, and studies. I have a friend who wrote a book called You Raise Them, Now Work With Them, which I think is a great way to put it. We've gathered more information on these young men and women than we have on any other generation. And they allow us to, because they do so much on social media, we can track everything they think and do, and they say so many things out loud that probably they shouldn't, that we're able to see what they're really thinking. So what we know is this: they want to be innovative and creative. They want to do interesting work. They want to work for organizations that have some sense of social responsibility. They want to be trained and given opportunities early in their careers. They're not willing to wait for it to move into positions of leadership. They want meaningful feedback on their performance. And what that means is they want immediate acknowledgement when they've done something well, and they want to know what they haven't done well. We call them the trophy generation, but in fact, they want feedback, good or bad. They want to understand what they can do to move to the next level. They want to feel like they're contributing, like they're not just a cog in the wheel. They donate money and time to social organizations and to social causes and to community organizations. They view loyalty not to the company, not to the firm, but to themselves and their values. And when it comes to money, the rumor is, whether it's true or not, I'm not sure, is that millennials are willing to trade time for money. All I can say is that I have two sons. One is a pretty brilliant mathematician, obviously adopted. And he is a professor, earning $75,000 a year because he believes that he can do good for people by making math understandable and fun. What a challenge. Especially in a room full of lawyers who understand my pain here. My other son is a public policy guy. He works for Harvard and goes from city to city doing what's something called social impact bonds, where he gets private organizations to support good causes. He earns less than any of his friends in tech, but he feels like he's doing something to change the world. Their friends are indicative of that spirit. Certainly they have some people who've gone into finance, become lawyers, become doctors, etc. But for the most part, their friends are doing things that are socially responsible to give them some feeling that they're changing the world. So in the end, when you ask me what millennials want, I say they want change. Have law firms figured this out? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's no question that law firms truly struggle to figure out what millennials want. Law firms, whether big or small, seem to say, let's stick our heads in the sand, these kids will grow up, and they will stop being such brats and requesting all this crazy stuff. And so there's this complete disconnect between the millennials and the law firms. And this becomes obvious when you just take a quick look at how we run our law firms. I mean, think about it. Millennials want to be innovative and creative, right? So what do law firms do? We take the best and the brightest out of the schools in the area or nationwide, and then we say, here's your job for the next year. Look at these documents, read these emails, review 650 emails in 9 days, for example, 650,000 emails in 9 days, for example, right? We ask them, thank you for that, we ask them to do very mundane tasks. If they're corporate lawyers, what do we have them do? Read this document, make sure that all the periods and commas in the right place, the signature lines are correct. I'm a litigator, so I don't really know what corporate lawyers do, but that's what I hear they do. And that's not either innovative or creative. Those of us who are sitting in the room know there's reason for that, right? There's reason for doing some of those mundane tasks. They have to learn how to evaluate documents that are hot and important from documents that aren't. They have to learn how to make sure that they're giving a quality product to their client, that there aren't mistakes in them. But if that's what you have to do day in and day out, when your friends are sitting across the street, working in tech, doing something incredibly interesting, reinventing the world, sending rocket ships up into the sky, finding ways to do sun tattoos that don't cause skin cancer, whatever it is, That's so much more exciting than sitting in a room and looking at documents. We know that millennials want to work in teams, that they want to be collaborative. And so what do we do in law firms? We say don't. You're not part of a team, right? You have your billable hours to meet. If you're a partner, you have your receivables that you have to bring in. Certainly don't share origination credit with anyone, because then you won't get credit for it, somebody else will. Or your salary might be affected by that. We create silos instead of teams. And so as a result, these millennials are in an environment that doesn't feel collaborative, doesn't feel like a team. And where do they work? They work in individual offices behind closed doors. And so that work environment that's so attractive in the tech industry, where everybody's out, it would make me crazy, but everybody's out and working with each other, they don't have. They have an office with a door on it they keep closed so that they can concentrate. We know that millennials want to work for organizations that have social responsibility. So what do? We say, hey, we're really into that. We're going to give you credit for pro bono work. Maybe, how about 20 hours of the 1,900, 2 billion hours you have to bill every year? And so as a result, and by the way, don't do too much pro bono work, because then you'll be looked at as being not committed. So, try to balance that social responsibility thing. We know that millennials want meaningful feedback. And what are we notorious for? Not giving feedback, right? We as lawyers, as an employment lawyer, I find this hilarious, because I represent a lot of law firms. And seeing how law firms give feedback is so funny. When I was at Keller Herman, the way we give feedback was this. You would get a paragraph. And if it said, Pat Gillette is very good at her job, I was supposed to know from that because it didn't say excellent, that meant that I really wasn't doing a good job at all. Okay, that was their idea of feedback, and that is consistent with a lot of law firms that don't give feedback, or if they give feedback, they give it once a year. When millennials are craving feedback, they want to know what they're doing, they want to know how they're doing, they want to know what you thought of that last thing that they did, but they don't. Law firms don't know how to do that. And what do we do as lawyers? If somebody makes a mistake, we hold that against them, right? We expect our associates to be perfect. I hear this from so many people, particularly women who always want to be perfect anyway, not realizing that men hardly ever are perfect. No offense to you men in the audience, because they said I live with men, I know this. But that perfect thing becomes such a hurdle and such a burden on these associates who are so afraid if they make one mistake, they will be pinged for the rest of their life as being someone who's not careful. And we know that millennials are willing to trade money for time. And yet what do we do to reward and incent our millennials, our new associates? We say, gee whiz, if you work more, you get more money. Bonuses are tied to how much you work, how many hours you put in. And finally, we know that millennials want change. As I said before, and what do law firms? Law firms deplore change. So why the disconnect? Why have law firms been so slow to respond to this new generation of lawyers? Why haven't we been able to do what corporations have done and realize that we have a new demographic coming into our workplace and embrace that and try to respond to it instead of pulling back and saying this is the way it's always been done? Well, that's wrapped up in who we are as lawyers, right? I'm included in this. Their studies have been done on lawyers. It's hilarious. We're the most risk-averse group when it comes to our own businesses. We are steeped in tradition. What is our job? Our job is to look backwards toward precedent instead of forward toward what the future holds. And so we tend to rely on what's worked in the past. And then there's this little thing that I always like to kid lawyers about, myself included. What do we call people who aren't lawyers? Do you ever think about this? We call them nons. We call them non-lawyers, okay? It's hilarious to me. This dawned on me one day when I was giving a speech, and I'm like, is there any other profession that calls people nons? There's no non-physician, no non-CEO, no non-gardener, but there are non-lawyers. And why do I bring that up? Because it sort of shows how arrogant we are, right? We think we're different from every other organization around, and therefore we don't have to play by the same rules. We don't have to change because we're lawyers and either get on board or become a non-lawyer, quit and go somewhere else. So now that I've asked you completely, let's talk about how we get out of this mess that I think we're in. Because I think the mentality is changing. The mentality is changing by some of the very people that I just said are guilty of all these things. And that is the baby boomers. The baby boomers, surprisingly enough, have an affinity, whether you admit it or not, with these millennials. In part because millennials are their children, and so they're seeing what their children are doing, and they don't want to criticize their children, although some of us do, like, can't you maybe skip your fitness class this morning and do something else? But no. So some of it is because the millennials are our children, and some of that is because what the millennials are asking for sort of resonates with us. Those of us that are at the second part of, I don't want to say the end of our careers, but the second part of our career. Many of the baby boomers feel an urge to go back to what we did in the 1960s, and that is to be socially responsible again. To have some input into our community, to make some social changes. Many of the baby boomers are saying, you know what, I want meaningful work. I want to do something that's going to feel good and make me want to get out of bed every day. And many of those baby boomers are willing to trade money for time. They'll get rid of their big partner salaries in order to do something that gives them more time. And so while the baby boomers may not be pulling the legal industry forward, they are, as always, leading from behind and pushing. And so we have the push me pull you, with the millennials pulling and the baby boomers pushing. And that's bringing about some changes in law firms, as we've seen. I want to start first with alternative fees. Anyone here doing alternative fees? Raise your hands. My firm, Orc, 80% alternative fees now. That's partly because, you know what my billing rate was? $950 an hour. Who would ever pay that? Not even me. I'm not that valuable, seriously. But we're seeing the expanded use of alternative fees. Why? Because clients were empowered in the recession to say, you know what? I don't have to pay these fees because I've got power. They want my work. So what can I do? I can say, hey, I'm not paying $9.50 an hour. Give me a better deal. And I'm telling you, for those of you who aren't doing alternative fees, you should think about it. It's a great way to think about how to get work done. It makes you more efficient. It makes your interests directly aligned with the client, because instead of saying, don't worry, I'll be as efficient as possible, what are you saying? I will get this within your budget. As someone who was in-house, I was in-house at B of A for 6 years, nothing matters as much as that budget. Because what are legal departments in corporations? Cost centers. We don't make money, right? So nobody really wants to use us. So if you can find a way to make your bills predictable for your clients by doing flat fees, by doing litigation, by phases, and you can put some protections in there, but it gives you a whole different way of thinking about how to charge out for services. We're beginning to see bonus systems that are tied to something other than the billable hour, that's tied to the quality of work, so that many of the firms that I've worked with in my time have had a bonus system that not only looks at billable hours, but also looks at the quality of the work, the productivity of the person. So that if you have someone who's billed 2,000 hours and would qualify for a bonus, you can give that person less of a bonus than someone who worked 1,800 hours if the 2,000-hour person had a lot of time written off, was not as productive as they should have been, didn't do the same quality work as the person who worked 1,800 hours. To begin to build in some of that merit that's not been a part of the legal system for so many years is a way that we're seeing change being made in rewarding people for the work and the quality of the work that they do. We're beginning to see some firms encourage entrepreneurship in the same way that Google is, by saying, hey, we're going to have a reward for someone who comes up with a more efficient way of doing something. And people come up with all kinds of great ideas. I tried it because we had a $50,000 reward at work. And unlike some plaintiffs who don't want to settle for $50,000, I'm like, someone gives me $50,000, I'll take it, right? But you would come up with some new efficiency in the way work gets done in the law firm. And if you could come up with that, whoever did, about $50,000. That's really interesting, and it makes these people feel like they're contributing to the whole. That they're not just minion who's doing work for the partners, but they actually can do something to improve the organization. We're beginning to see law firms, small and large, think about the fact that lawyers should be looked at in terms of their entire career. Not what did you do yesterday for me, but what is the career that you're going to have here? And to begin thinking differently about whether that career is going to be associate to partner or something shorter than that. If you can get 5 years out of an associate, maybe that's good enough. If you can build in successes other than just partner, so that someone can say, I don't want to be partner, but I'm willing to be senior associate. That makes a difference, because part of what the millennials want is confirmation that they're doing good jobs, and if the only reward is one that comes after 10 years, they're hanging around to get those. They want something sooner. And so if you can give them progressions, you're now a managing associate, you're now a senior associate, you're now a junior partner, you're now a full-fledged partner. Those kinds of things are making a difference in the way millennials feel about staying with law firms. And law firms are getting more realistic about what a career should look like. And we have men joining in the conversation that used to be about quote-unquote women's issues. And so this is what I love. We have men who are now taking paternity leave. And I encourage all of those firms that don't have paternity leave to have it, because millennial men want to spend time with their kids. All right? So you might as well recognize that and give them the time off. But what's funny is that these men are saying, I don't know if I feel comfortable taking that paternity leave because they might view me as not being committed. There might be a stigma attached to me. And I'm like, oh, welcome to our world, boys. So I encourage everybody I know who's a man and having a child, well, actually not having a child, but having a child enter their life, to take paternity leave because it becomes more normal. And we also see men joining in the conversation about quote-unquote traditional women's issues, because the baby boomer men have daughters. And those daughters are being subjected to some of the things that we have criticized as women in the legal industry. And so they're beginning to change their minds about whether everyone should be paid the same, whether we should look at how people are promoted, whether we should do studies about equity within our organizations. And that's making a change. So those men coming into the conversation is a positive change. And because what were traditionally women's issues are now people issues, the millennials are responding positively to that. So, good beginning. What's next? What's next? Well, we know that millennials want an open learning environment, right? They want a place where they're free to ask questions, where they don't have to be perfect, et cetera, et cetera. We have to embrace that and allow them to make mistakes. When you talk to tech companies, particularly to the CEOs of tech companies, they love to say, we embrace failure. We want failure to happen. That's what really generates new ideas. Whether that's true or not doesn't really matter, because their workers think it's true. And as a result, they're willing to try new things and make mistakes. We have to allow our associates to do that. We can't say, as a first-year associate or a second-year associate, you can't make mistakes and you will be forever doomed. And we have to say that out loud so they believe it. We know that millennials want to move up in their organizations, and so the lack of transparency that has traditionally characterized law firms has to go. We have to tell our associates, this is what it means to progress within our firm. This is how our firm is run. This is what the financial picture looks like. They want that information. I know it seems hard to share that stuff. I've actually never worked in a firm that didn't have open everything, but I know there are firms out there. There are firms that don't tell partners how much other partners make. There are firms that never would disclose their financials to their associates. And yet, the more you can do that, the more they feel like they're part of the organization. So if you can just break a little bit of the transparency into the transparency realm, you're going to do better with these millennials. At least tell them what it takes to be partner. You can expect to work here for 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. You can expect to progress in this amount of time. These are the kinds of things that we look at when we're making a partner. And be specific. Don't say you have to become a trusted advisor to your client. You have to be a good business partner. Talk about the specifics. This is what we expect. You should have $100,000 in business at the time that you're being considered for partner. You should be able to show that you've mastered these skills. Many firms have gone to competency evaluations and progression instead of progressing by year out of law school. I mean, seriously, folks, think about it. Does it make sense to promote people based on year out of law school? I mean, I could have graduated, let's say, in 1976, for example, and not have the same qualifications as someone who graduated that same year. I could have tried more cases or less cases, etc. It doesn't matter when you graduate from law school. What matters is what the competencies are that you develop. And so if you can tell people these are the competencies that we expect of our associates at the first year, second year, third year, and then give them the opportunity to master those skills, that kind of transparency is going to wed them to your organization, to make them feel like they're part of the organization and like they have a path forward. We know that millennials like to work with other people, they like to socialize, they like to feel connected. We need to find ways to make work fun. We need to find ways to have them interact, and the idea of the independent actor has to go. Our clients demand it, and our associates are going to demand it. They want to have teams. They want to feel like they're part of something other than an individual working in an office with his or her door closed. We also know that millennials see men and women as equals. They want diversity. They want to see diversity in their leadership. They want to see diversity in opportunities. They want to see people being treated for their skills and their competencies, not just what they look like. And so for those firms that aren't diverse, you need to think about getting some diversity into the positions in your firm that matter, and to ensure that you've got diverse associates and partners so that people feel like they're in an environment where people are treated fairly and equally. Millennials are not afraid to say they want balance, as you know. They'll say, gee whiz, I don't want to come in until 10 o'clock. I'm willing to work until midnight, but I don't want to come in until 10 o'clock. Or I want to take a break from 6 to 10 to go out with my friends. We need to be okay with that. It's really okay to get work done in someplace other than the office. So think about being able to be flexible with where people work and when people work and how they work, as long as they get their jobs done. They want to participate in management and feel like they have leadership opportunities. And I'm telling you, it really makes a difference when you bring diversity into the rooms where decisions are being made. And that diversity includes, as you've heard throughout the day today, women and minorities, all kinds of people who we view as different. But it also includes younger voices. When you get younger voices in the room, you hear a lot of things that you don't hear otherwise. Some of them are crazy because they haven't had any experience, but a lot of it is a different way of thinking about how you might get something done. So whenever I have a big issue I'm trying to tackle on the women's front, because I do so much speaking on women's issues, I go to my public policy son and say, tell me what you think I should do for this. He had a crazy idea about how to organize law firms, that law firms should bring people in, and for the first 3 years, you would rotate through the entire firm. Oh, this sounds like something we used to do a long time ago, right? Rotate through the entire firm, learning all the different kinds of law. Then you would have to go in-house for a period of time, and then you'd have to go work at a government organization for a while. So you could see all these aspects of how you practice law. To repay the firm for giving you that opportunity, you'd have to work for another 3 years at the firm, and then you'd be free to go. It was a brilliant idea, except it would require slavery, because you'd have to require people to work for 3 years. But it was an interesting thought, right? Is there a way that we could incorporate, for example, secondment to a corporation, to have our associates do in-house work, which, in my opinion, is the most valuable thing that a lawyer can do. To learn what it feels like to be in-house, to learn how to think like a business person instead of like a lawyer, to have the opportunity to see how in-house people work, I think that's great. And so some of the big firms are doing this because they can afford to do it. Some of your smaller firms may not be able to do it. But at my firm, we give our associates for free to our clients for a period of time so that they can learn what it's like to be an in-house lawyer and cement that relationship with the client. So sometimes having younger people give their ideas about what a different law firm could look like, what a different legal industry could look like is great. To do that, they have to be in the room where decisions are being made. And the last thing we know is that millennials don't really want to be partners in big firms or small firms necessarily. That's not their goal. They may want to have 4 jobs before they're 32 years old, and we just have to sort of embrace that and understand that. And we do that by talking to them about what their career goals are, what they're interested in, what they want to achieve in their legal career, and then facilitating that. Because even if they don't actually ever do that, so the second-year associate who says, I really want to be a U.S. attorney, or I want to go work for legal aid, may never do that. But the fact that you sat down and talked with them about it and said, well, let's think about what the skills are that you need to do that and how can we facilitate that, goes a long way toward building that trust. And part of what's happened with the millennials and our legal industry is that trust has been broken. Trust has been broken. And we have to rebuild that trust so that they know that they can count on us to build a legal industry that's going to be reflective of what's important to them, that's going to be challenging and exciting and interesting. So these voices of change need to be heard. And while the push-me-pull-you may be a mythical animal, doesn't really exist, we know that the millennials and their beliefs and the baby boomers and their beliefs do exist. And if we can get the millennials pulling and the baby boomers pushing, we can move our legal industry forward. And we can have that future generation of lawyers feel like they've got a place where they can thrive, where they can enjoy a wonderful career, as many of us have in this room, and where they'll be rewarded for it, either by becoming partners in our firms or by doing something that will change the world and make it a better place for all of us. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Yeah. You talk about the quintessential American that has become more globalized, and American law firm has become globalized. What were we thinking about American law firm in Beijing, in Hong Kong, in Arab states, in Japan, where the things about work ethic, about women, being very different? What, if anything, do you know about how millennials think those?
So the question is what do I know about how millennials think in other countries? I have to say I'm sorry, I don't know very much about how millennials think in other countries, so I apologize for that. My advice would be that we be more like the Catholic Church, that when it went to Mexico, it built churches that didn't look like those churches in Europe, but looked like the churches in Mexico. You know, I mean, I think that's what law firms have to do. We can't go to England or to Germany or to Beijing and expect to put our law firms in those environments and have them be successful. It's just a different game. But I'm sorry, I can't answer your question about what millennials think. Any other questions?